So now that I have my notes up here, I'm going to talk about basically, I'm going to give like an overview of The Art of Travel by Alain de Botton. And so basically, it's like broken down into all these. It's broken down into these essays. Well, it's broken down into chapters, which are broken down into essays that are interweaved with his personal narrative, as well as other artists that he seems deems important in relation to him and the art of travel. Oh yes, that was intended. So basically, we open up with how I believe it was what Baton wants is trying to encourage the reader to travel more or even differently, but rather to approach travel. He's not trying to tell you to travel more or differently, but he wants you to approach travel in a more thoughtful way, as far as like thinking about all the things that go into it. And I think that that's a wonderful setup to where we get into On Anticipation, where we're talking about De Asant from the Huseman story, and is basically talking about we don't hear much about the why and the how as opposed to the where. So it's like, why are you traveling? How are you going to get there? It's like, no, I want to go to Barbados, which is what uh draw a blank. Alon is what Data Baton is talking about as far as where he was going and things like that. And so he's basically something I found interesting is that Duke de Assault is he does all this work to get all these people to put all these things together, and he's carrying his luggage. He's on the train, blah blah blah. But he doesn't even get to the destination because it's literally so tiresome and wearisome. And that connects back to what we were talking about in the beginning of the semester about how traveling is very tiresome on the body, and we all seem to forget that. And so it's like better to being at home is better than the actual experience. So like by the end of this, we get a point to how much we tend to not only miss what we think we are when we think about going places, but also the actual process of getting there. So from there, we talk. So that's basically how On the Travel goes, like a journey, not the destination. It's more about the liminal spaces, places where they're for a shorter period of time. So the hotels, the trains, the cars, the airports, the airplanes, all that jazz. Places that we're in for a small amount of time. Um, so basically, that's what basically Lambert was talking about. So it's like this urge to be elsewhere where one's heart really is. It's basically led him to consider his personal identity as being independent to where he was. So he's like a Frenchman from Normandy, but he's also other things. And it's like another thing that I thought was interesting is like I'm not as Chinese as French. I thought that was interesting also is because like even though me being a black woman in America, I don't like I'm African American. So it's like I have that combine of like, am I African or am I American, and which times will I be accepted by whom? So I thought that was extremely interesting. Okay, so the essay that brings me to the next that brings me to until On Curiosity. Curiosity killed the cat. Um and this is basically talking about it, so like basically this like supreme orderliness of Debaton's trip and everything, and how it's like and how it's all clean cut and everything. We're talking about Van Humble when it comes to his eco-friendly scientific curiosity. It was interesting he related this back to Nietzsche. And I also thought it was like considering about the difference between like collecting facts if you're an explorer or like a academic scholar, and then using well-known facts as like the term to like self-enlightenment, which is usually seen as negative. It's usually seen as positive. So that's positive, you're doing enlightenment, where if it's negative, you're just collecting to collect. So you don't get anything from it as far as like a self realization. Then it's basically Nietzsche wouldn't agree to that because he's more about all the knowledge of life. About the struggle is supposed to be this way in order for you to see the world in all these different ways and to understand what is going on. Which brings us to the final chapter, which is basically talking about on the country and the city. So it's about the place in the Lakes District, and it's talking about the guide who is William Wadsworth. And so basically, So his philosophy of importance to mankind is being sensitive to the beauties of nature that provides like a backdrop for this thought-provoking um, essay. So I thought it's like what's interesting is about these spots of time, how like you can actually spot a time. So like when he was riding the plane and then he was on top of the clouds, like he can spot the time where he was reading that in the book or in the essay to see that this is the spot in time to where this person said this. So you have a sense of connection in that way. It also points to what is it? Oh, it's on my computer. Also points to like a sense of, I guess, in a way, like distant communitas because like you're connecting with someone or something in that aspect, in that time, in that moment of time. It just kind of makes me think about how like you're kind of like stripping down everything to become more one, and this reminds me back to Grotowski. That's Jerzy Grotowski, who is a performance artist, and his performance method is basically to, like to break down and then to make you more one with yourself and to challenge yourself into, and that's how you will recreate yourself and in Transformers, wow, and then to transform your entire life. So I thought that was interesting. Overall, like this is a really good intro to everything. Like as far as like who I connect with more, I would have to say Baudelaire because of the whole loneliness aspect and how we all travel in order to find ourselves or like to, I guess, see different things and learn different things. Like me personally, I want to see different people. I want to learn about different people. I want to talk to different people. Whereas when you're in these spaces, people are more in, I guess, engulfed in like themselves and who they are and who they want to be in the world and who they want to and how they want it to transform. Whereas, rather than trying to connect with others, of course, you'll find those people that do want to do that, like me. But you know, sometimes you don't always get that because some people see tourism as a means to find themselves, which is what it started out as in the beginning with the romantics and the bourgeoisie. Like, who gets to go on this rite of passage? And De Botton, like, he does a very good job of like weaving this. It makes me think of the Bowmans from LSU, Ruth Bowman, sorry, excuse me, Ruth Bowman, where she wrote a piece about the seamstress and how she was basically performing and like doing performative writing method as well as telling the story and connecting those back. That's exactly what De Botton did, and I recognized it upon the first couple of pages. I was like, oh yes, this is the seamstress all up and through. He's interweaving it all, and he's showing us. He's showing, he's telling, then he's showing. He's showing, telling. But regardless, it's being told. So I look forward to reading the rest of this. I feel like On the Sublime is going to be extremely interesting, so I'm interested to see what's going to happen next. Okay. Thank you. Bye.